what we've really come to understand is it's the hand action that actually drives.
If you have good hands, you know what to do with your hands. So much works back into the body, and the golfer they're empowered when they know how to use their hands properly. Gentlemen?
That's a good point, Martin. And I'm going to basically, if the hands are going to control the club, it'd be nice if the hands are going to control not only the club, but the arms and the body. So when we start in the middle of the body, if I push a little forward with the right hand against the left hand a little bit, you'll discover that the hips will turn a little forward. Left leg will straighten a little. That little movement's called a forward press, kind of a kick start. It starts the swing. From there, you push the handle back, and that in turn engages the pivot of the hip again. Wherever the shaft points, it has a tendency when you push against it to turn the body in that direction. So if I push the handle back a little ahead rather than the club head first, then the body comes into, and I now get a hands and hips connection, and it helps coordinate the hands, arms, and body. So it becomes a golf swing right from the very beginning. So it's not an arm swing or a wrist hinge. It's a coordination between hands, arms, and body. And it becomes, as you was saying in the beginning there, you get started all together. It becomes a flow, and a coordination is able to be had.
You know, I'd say you see some, and Hogan was excellent. Obviously, it's almost a handle first look with some players rather than a pickup of the club head. You see this motion where, the club head has some weight into the hands, the handle moves first, and then as we go to thumbs down, that golf club, people are so afraid of throwing the club head, right? Of how we move this club from the club head to the golf ball, because I think a lot of people are too confused, Peter, and they make the club head. They don't take the club head to the ball. They don't go club head ball. They go club head to some other place, which confuses things and then makes them react in order to fit the club head in.
Just got a quick question, Martin, from our listeners here. Dan Paul says Ben Hogan's explanation of the waggle was a little vague. Would Mr. Croker please explain how he incorporates the thumbs down move in the waggle? I know the waggle previews the impact zone, but would like to better understand how he does it and feels it.
Okay, good question, Dan. So, Ben Hogan devoted a whole chapter to the waggle, and I think he did a very good job. But if we look at it, it's a hands-controlled movement. It's not arms or shoulders, but there is a little bit of connection between the hands and the feet, because you usually have happy feet when you're doing it. But the waggle, the backswing waggle, is just a rotation and a hinging up. So that's the backswing part of the waggle. I'd call this this is the Ben Hogan waggle, or down under we call it the Australian waggle. Okay, this would be a New York waggle, So, but that's the backswing part. Now the downswing, it just comes there. It's like you're practicing the start of the downswing, and then it swivels back. So it's a very centralized move. There's no arm lift. It's all hands, and it's training the hands and arms to be maintained in front of the body throughout the swing rather than pulling it across your body. You're programming in this push structure and the centralness of your hands. We looked at it from down the line angle. You'll see you're practicing your backswing and the downswing from the inside, and then you come around. So the left hand is back, down, and then swivel. And the right hand's bent, down, and swivel. You put the two together, and that's what the hands and arms are going to do in the backswing, the start of the downswing, and the release through the ball. So it really helps program what the hands and arms are going to do throughout the swing.
I think, Dan, that was a great question. I think the waggle is, like I said earlier, often overlooked. If we can teach golfers that sense of how to set up to a golf ball and understand that the club isn't zipped inside with the hands, there is this sense of a waggle, the down under waggle, as Peter says, which is a little bit more deliberate than some of the tour players do it. But for the majority of players out there that whip it inside, imagine how much better off you'll be with that subtlety. And look at this baby swing here. That's really club head out, and then it shallows, it gets underneath, and has a nice inside-out strike. So the mini swing of that can be so beneficial to most golfers out there. Can't say enough about it.
Exactly. Very well. It's a good question, and I think a very important part of the golf swing. If you're going to educate your hands, it's nice to educate them in the waggle as a beginning point once you've got the hands on the club properly.
Got another question from Matt Davis. As a coach, I get a lot of questions, especially now that Bryson DeChambeau and Mo Norman are getting more well known. What's the advantage of the wrist condition at address versus starting in an uncocked position with the shaft already in line with the lead arm?
I'd like to talk about that a little bit. I think, we always tend to look at the 1% club. We look at how one person does it and we go, wow, that person does it a little bit differently. I want to do it like that. Why don't we look at the 99% of people, how they do it? And I'll tell students, I grew up around Mo Norman. Mo Norman was magical. He was an amazing striker. But the thing I'll say to people too is that if you took an aim stick, and here I've got an aim stick right here, and if I have an aim stick perpendicular to my forearm and I move my forearm, I can create a lot of distal speed on both ends of that. If I take that same stick, put it completely in line with my arm, and rotate my arm, I have no speed. So Mo Norman, when he played with George Knudson would hit it 270 back in the day, which was a long way. Mo Norman would hit it 250, 260. So George was longer than Mo, and he had more of this event that had speed possibilities in it that could wind up into impact. So I'm sure, Peter, you'll have something great to say, but I always say, let's not look at what the 1% of people do. And I even grew up around Mo. And don't think for a minute that I didn't try to play like this for a little bit, but I noticed right away that, with the way that was pretty much orthodox rather than unorthodox.
Yeah, look, what I've discovered is that when you uncock your wrist at address and lock it, it does put a lot of tension in your arm. So a guy like Bryson DeChambeau has really worked out. Now, Mo Norman, he worked out by hitting 1,000 golf balls a day, and
Mo was strong as a bear. Absolutely.
Yeah, but at the same time, Bryson, while he's got this grip like this, he's got a lot of strength, and he is really. I wouldn't like to know how his body's going to be by the time he's 40, let alone 60. So I think he's going to have to change, like a lot of the top players do. They change their swing over time because of their body doesn't allow them, because they hurt their body. So for someone that does that, if it works and you're using it, fine. But we discovered that basically if you learn it this way, there's no timing. When you swing with the educated hands, basically the whole golf swing is built on rotation and centrifugal force. And Paul Runyon said to me, and it really stuck with me, he said centrifugal force, providing you got a good grip and a good setup, the circular motion force in the swing will square the club more precisely through impact than you can ever steer it. So anyone that does this is kind of locking out. It's kind of a partial steering action. And to me, it definitely, one, you've got to be strong to do it. Two, it does stress your body. I do know that from having some of my students come to me that have tried it for a while. But again, there's many ways to play the game. And so if it works for you, go for it. But we really would like to encourage you to try the orthodox way. We call it orthodox anyway, similar to what Ben Hogan and many of the other tour players, as what Martin just said, the majority of people would play the game with a grip where the shaft points more at the center of gravity to start, and therefore it engages the center. And then you can swing using the inside to move the outside. So when I swing from here, it's an easy, effortless swing. If I do this, straight away, I've got to do something extra to get back in that position. And my arm has to fold somewhere. There's no such thing as a one-plane swing. They might call it a one-plane, but as soon as that right arm has to fold, the club head has to travel on a secondary plane at least. So basically, when you swing it, it'll swing, and it naturally goes into positions so you can then deliver it with the educated hands in the right path. And so that question, there are many ways, but this way we're talking about here, we'd like you to give it a go. And I think if you do, you'll find that it works very easily, and you'll find it helps your body as well long term. I'll hand back.
How you doing, pal? Any more good questions out there?
Yeah, we got a question from Philip. If you would please explain, can you explain the feel of the trail arm throughout the swing from P1 to impact?
Look,
Yeah,
Chris,
Peter, go for it, pal.
I was just going to say, look, Chris, they're questions we haven't got to yet.
Yeah.
As far as building a
swing.
Anyway,
we'll get to that one in a moment. Mark asks, are there any training devices to help the student to know if they achieve the wanted motion, like especially impact?
Well, I'm kind of a training aid guy, right? Obviously, this ball is very, very convenient in that if you have a lot of arms, if you go thumbs down and you train your hands, this ball will stay in all day long. So you've seen most people that have watched tour events have watched a lot of tour players hit pitch shots with this. And if you can hold the ball in your forearms, there's no separation. So it's really easy to have the sense of ground force reaction, thumbs down, body pivot, open pelvis, all the benefit of if you can just do that, right? So the Tour Striker Training Club, which Peter gratefully mentioned, it's a club that's got an elevated face to help understand that the event of a strike, the shaft's a little bit forward, and to get that, obviously the club is going to resist changing direction, but you have to have your hands on correctly to have that resistance help you. And then if you know how to use your hands properly, your pivot will work nicely, and you'll have the benefit. You'll benefit from that stronger loft, like Peter said. Good players may set up with a neutral shaft, but the weight of the club, if you grip it properly, will put the grip in a stronger position that your pivot can help deliver through your intent with your hands, and you'll hit a lot of powerful strikes. And the Tour Striker Training Club helps with that quite a bit.
Yeah, they're really good training aids to help build the impact zone. I also like this swing corrector device.
Yes.
It really gives me a reference. I can see that when my hands are getting too active in the backswing, but especially through the impact zone, I can really feel and I can see now that lean of the shaft, especially if I'm taking a video of it, and I can see when it breaks down. So as a teacher, I like putting this on the students' club to help me help them see where they should be versus where they don't want to be. So
I'll tell you another one. This everybody probably has one of these in your garage. Well, every Canadian has a hockey stick shaft, but for everybody else, you have a yardstick. And if you grip down on it a little bit, there's about 8 or 10 inches right there. I'm sure Peter has one handy. You can do so many good things at home with a yardstick because now you have that little excess that when you have a neutral grip, you have this little pizza wedge in here. And when you learn how to uncock properly, now you've got this nice looking lever that can really compress a golf ball before overtaking happens and you go into this, kind of just finishing in style. But learning how to just go from a neutral hand location, uncocking downward, you can kind of see how the wrists work. As the wrist joint raises and the left wrist flattens, the shaft leans a little bit. So this little event, these pushes, and you move through this space and you consciously learn how to uncock. There's a beautiful strike before overtaking happens and you go into a finish. That's why so much of a day one of my golf school is just little swings that are just kind of waist high, so people actually build confidence in this impact position before they start trying to swat golf balls all over the range. And once they can kind of understand and feel great compression, then we'll let things speed up and we'll let some overtaking happen.
What we've really come to understand is it's the hand action that actually drives
If you
the
have
life.
good